So, before we start getting into Tor browser and other parts of digital anonymity, I thought we would start with some beginner softwares and habits that you can do to begin with. Remember that this will not give you any kind of airtight privacy or anonymity on the internet. It's just a good starting point, essentially. So, first thing I'm going to recommend is actually a website, and it's called privacytools.io. Privacytools.io is a good source for finding software and tools used to increase your privacy in a post privacy world. Why did I write it like that? Most of what I'm going to talk about on this series is either from privacytools.io or like I found it earlier, but it also happens to be documented on there. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that unless you can't be bothered to read or you like my shuddering, bored voice, stop watching the series and just look at privacy.io. Shit's basically my Bible now. When it comes to browsers, the choice is usually between Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome. Mozilla Firefox is an open source browser made by a nonprofit company which strives for better user privacy and has received awards for their effort. Chrome is made by Google. If you didn't know, Google is kind of infamous for their how do I say this in a nice way? Less than optimal privacy policies. Google Chrome allows access to thousands of more cookies on your computer than Firefox. Additionally, every user receives a unique user ID with their Chrome browser, which includes information about their personal IP address. But Sam, you might say, it's faster and less RAM intensive. You're selling your personal information to Google for milliseconds of time saved. If you have Google Chrome on your device and you use it for your main browser, please do yourself a favor and immediately uninstall it and download Firefox. This video can wait. In addition to Firefox, there are a few plugins I recommend. uBlock Origin is an open source ad blocker. HTTPS Everywhere is a tool from the Tor project and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which enables encrypted connections to many major websites. Decentral Eyes blocks content delivery networks and injecting required resources into website environments instead. Content delivery networks can otherwise be used by your ISP and various companies to collect personal information. Clear URLs removes tracking elements in URLs, pretty straightforward. Terms of Service Didn't Read provides users with a shorter summarized version of terms of services for a number of websites. So the next step is your search engine. Now, you better sit down for this one. I'm sorry, but you can't use Google. Yeah, I know. I get it. It's a great search engine and it's really well optimized. And I like how when you search for things, sometimes it'll just come up with like the Wikipedia article immediately or something. Google as a search engine and as a company is infamous for its blatant breaching of users' privacy. They use cookies, analytics products, they have ties with government agencies like the NSA and the CIA, the whole 9 yards. And that's just the search engine. If there's an internet privacy concern of any sort, it's likely that Google has some part of it. Hey, but Sam, don't you have an account on YouTube, a subsidiary of Google? You say, moving your knight into position. Checkmate, you think, right before I tell you that we're playing Uno. Yeah, I get it. I have a Google account and use YouTube. The problem is that when it comes to video sharing services, YouTube is unfortunately only real choice. It essentially has a monopoly. Trust me when I say that if there were any alternatives that made sense, I'd do that instead. Anyway, I only really log into the Google accounts to upload something and maybe look at the 2 comments I've gotten ever or something like that. I don't use Google or YouTube unencrypted often enough for them to get anything about me, really. At least that's what I like to think. When it comes to search engines, there really isn't anything better than DuckDuckGo. It's open source, reliable, hardly different from using Google, and most importantly, it puts an emphasis on user privacy. There isn't any reason you shouldn't be using DuckDuckGo for all of your internet searches. Email is yet another technology tainted by corporate entities. Google earned about $95 billion in 2017 from selling information from users' Gmail accounts. I honestly don't know why anyone still uses any of Google's shit. I hate these people. Proton Mail is what I personally use. Proton Mail is an open source and uses end-to-end encryption to make sure that your email is secure. It's also a Swiss company, and their laws on internet privacy are more progressive than the United States'. Like, if the government is going to put you under surveillance of any kind, Proton will inform you. So they say. I don't know. I don't actually know how that stuff works. Just remember that when it comes to privacy in email, you're also reliant on whoever you're sending stuff to. So if you're sending an email using Proton Mail, but your dumbass friend is using Yahoo for whatever reason, then the email can be read off their inbox. Because of this, I recommend making multiple email accounts for different things. Like if you're sending a professional business email, use an account with your name as the username. But if you want to send someone an email about how good that weed was that one time, use the email with the username xx_stanky_xx@protonmail.com. Why did I write that? Currently, the most popular instant messenger used in the United States is Facebook Messenger. That's disgusting. I don't think I need to get into how amazingly terrible Facebook and all of its subsidiaries are. I think most people know that Facebook is a privacy nightmare, and yet people still use Facebook products. I don't understand. Why, in the name of all that is holy, are you using a service that openly admits at looking at your stuff? I'm picking on Messenger a lot because that's the most widely used, but similar problems are present with other services like Telegram, WhatsApp, or even plain-ass SMS. The programs I'm going to recommend utilize something called end-to-end encryption. This means that every message that you send is encrypted before being sent and decrypted on the receiver's device. That way, if the NSA or whatever is looking in the Messenger's servers, all they see is the Library of Babel. A reference I keep making in this video, I just realized, and also one that I'm sure nobody understands. Signal is an easy-to-use messenger-like application, and one that I personally use. The only problem is that it's a centralized service, which means it's more susceptible to backdoor legislation. We'll talk about that later, but just know for now that that's an issue. Element is a federated service, so instead of a centralized server system, it utilizes multiple independently run servers. That makes it harder for government agencies and other institutions to plug in a backdoor, as the servers are decentralized. The problem with it, however, is that some of the servers are run by a company, but others are just run by some guy who had $40 to buy a Raspberry Pi. This is great, but it also means that servers can sometimes prove to be slow or unreliable, depending on the bandwidth of the person who's running it. I don't see this as much of a problem as long as you have a large enough network of individuals running servers. There are also some messaging services that run on a peer-to-peer platform, but those don't make sense unless you're running Tor, so I'll cover them later. VPNs are often advertised as the solution for privacy concerns. I have unfortunate news. They're not. I'll go into this more in my video on Tor, but just know for now that VPNs aren't exactly the golden solution to privacy. File storage and saving is something else that's primarily done by two services, Google Drive and OneDrive. I've gone over other Google services a lot in this video, so you shouldn't be too surprised to hear that Google Drive openly looks at everything that's stored on their servers. Like, it's not even hidden, it's right in the terms of services. In fact, I actually encourage all of you to read the Google privacy policy. It's like reading a Kurt Vonnegut book or something. OneDrive has similar problems to Google Drive, with the additional benefit of just generally sucking ass at its job. Using OneDrive is like trusting a 4-year-old kid to hold an urn full of your grandma's ashes. I have 3 alternatives to online drives like this. Making a Pirate Box or a Samba server both require Raspberry Pis and a bit of technical know-how, and so they both deserve their own videos. The third way is way simpler. It utilizes this really new technology. It's called a flash drive. These things are great, and I have like tons of them. Need somewhere to put a file that's not your computer? Flash drives can hold whatever it is. Need it on the go? Flash drives fit in your pocket. Need to share something with someone? There you go. Thanks. If they're far away, you can send files over email. The only restriction I can think of is sending particularly large files over a long distance, because emails generally can't send files that are too large. You could also use mail. USPS is a thing. Just mail hard drives to each other. I can't really honestly think of a situation where you need to send like a super huge file to someone immediately. Just like, quick, I need the entire Hobbit trilogy on my computer right now. The one limitation is that two people can't work on the same document like they can on Google Drive. That's something I like. But these minor inconveniences are the prices we must pay for privacy. These are the crosses we must bear. If someone steals your flash drive or it's sealed by the police, there are like 500 different programs that will encrypt the data and set a password on flash drive. Oh, but Sam, what if there's not enough storage? Bullshit. There will be enough storage on a flash drive. Let me give you a demonstration. Here in front of me is a 64 gigabyte Cruiser Glide, which costs about $7 on Amazon. I think I got this at like my local Walgreens. Also in front of me is my 2-year-old university appointed Google Drive. Over the last 2 years, I have amassed a large collection of files including videos, images, graphs, documents, and perhaps the strangest paper I've ever written. 2 years of hard work and studying has created 104.1 megabytes of data. That's not even a gigabyte. That's a little bit shy of 1/64th of the amount of space on this $7 flash drive. Like, even if you did need that amount of space for some reason, using a flash drive is actually less expensive. See, Google Drive only gives you about 15 gigabytes of free storage before you have to start paying. That's less than a quarter of a space on this $7 flash drive. The lowest tier for a paid Google Drive plan is $19.99 a year for 100 gigabytes. Reminder, this drive was only $7, and it was a one-time payment. For $15, you can get a flash drive with 128 gigabytes. It's so much cheaper to just get a flash drive, and you don't have like 38 institutions look at your shit. Because it's a flash drive. It's not connected to the internet. They literally can't look at your stuff. Anyway, those are a few things that you can do to help maintain your internet privacy. Next time we'll talk about Tor and why it's God's greatest gift to man, except for sometimes. Alright, bye. Before I let you go, actually, I wanted to talk about one more thing. In the United States, the Senate has released a new bill called the Lawful Access to Encryption Data Act, which does exactly what you think it would. It makes it mandatory for encrypted services such as Signal or Proton Mail to put a backdoor into their software, basically making it so if law enforcement wants to look at someone's encrypted data for whatever, they can. I suspect it's because protesters of the recent killing of George Floyd and police brutality in general have been using encrypted services to contact each other. But either way, it's a horrible bill. For a couple of reasons, actually. First of all, there's the obvious privacy concerns of government looking into people's data whenever they want, and it's now reaching to the point where encryption can't help. But also because if you know anything about encryption, which of course the Senate doesn't seem to because everyone there is old as shit, you'll know that you can't just make a back door just for law enforcement. If you have a back door into an encryption, anyone can access that if they have the technical know-how. So really what this bill does is completely negate the purpose of encryption. At this point, what most people would say is to call your local senator, email your representative, tell them that you do not support this bill. However, most people don't take into account the fact that the government doesn't care about you. This bill already goes against popular opinion, and I very much doubt that any emails or calls to your local representative will really sway their opinion on this bill. So really, all I can really say is we'll see. We'll see what happens. But just know that in a short amount of time, it might be possible that services like Signal and other end-to-end encryption services might become obsolete, in which case Okay. Goodbye for real. Oh, hey, I forgot about social media that respects your privacy. All right, here we go. Don't use social media.